Hi everyone. Chapter 10 discusses proposals and formal reports. These are the learning outcomes. A proposal is a type of report, but serves a different function. A proposal is a written offer by the writer to solve problems, provide services, or sell equipment for or to the reader, typically for a price. With a proposal, it is the writer who will do the work to solve the problem. With a report, the writer gives the reader enough information so the reader can solve the problem. That is the main distinction. In other words, you pay me X number of dollars and I will solve the problem for you. And the proposal shows how the writer will do it. Proposals can be short and informal, and like informal reports covered in Chapter 9, are written in letter or memo or email format. Look at Figure 10.2 in your book for a memo proposal. Proposals can be long and formal, often in response to an RFP or a request for proposal, and like formal reports are written in manuscript format. More on that shortly. The one key rule to responding to an RFP is to follow the explicit instructions, including format, such as font type, line spacing, and so on. Failure to follow the instructions will disqualify your proposal, no matter how good the content is. Proposals can be internal, such as proposing a policy change, or to purchase new equipment, and the like. They can be external, written to clients or customers, showing the company's products or services and how they would solve a client's or customer's problem. Proposals are either solicited, requested, such as through an RFP, and as such are written in a direct organizational strategy. Others are unsolicited, not requested, and therefore use an indirect organizational strategy. But our focus in this chapter is the formal report. Let's quickly review the definition. A business report is an orderly and objective presentation of factual information to aid in making decisions and solving problems. It analyzes findings, draws conclusions, and often makes recommendations that would help the reader solve a problem. So, functionally, informal and formal reports do the same thing. The main differences are the length, the tone, and the format. Length is easy. Formal reports are long. How long? They can range from 15 to 20 pages, to 100 pages, or more. The more complex the problem is, the longer and more formal the report will be. If the audience is high-ranking executives, the more formal the report will be. Tone is easy. These reports are formal. They need to sound formal. The style is simply this. They are written in third-person impersonal tone. These reports do not use I or we or you. The only part of the report that would use I, we, or you is the transmittal document. And this will either be a letter or a memo. The real issue is format. Formal reports are prepared in manuscript format. That is, it contains extra components that help create the formality. You can look at figure 10.3 in your book or this image right here. For a deeper understanding of these components, go to section 10-6. The first section is the front matter or prefatory material. For our purposes, the cover page is optional. It only adds extra formality to the report and protects the pages from damage. The title fly is also optional. This is simply a thin, almost see-through piece of paper that simply has the report title on it. If you look in section 10-6A, everything listed there is required. The title page is crucial. It identifies the title, the intended primary audience, the writers, and the date published or submitted. The transmittal document will either be a memo or a letter depending on if the report is internal or external. It follows a direct strategy that essentially says, here is the report you requested, or here is the report I said I would give you. It discusses A, B, and C. If you have questions, please contact the team. It adds a little more than that, but that's essentially it. The table of contents, simply labeled contents, not table of contents. Look at the contents page in your textbook. What chapter 10 shows in figure 10-19 is actually incorrect. The contents show how the report is organized, where to find specific sections. A list of figures, simply labeled figures, identifies all the visual aids in the report and their page numbers. If the list is long, make it a separate page. Otherwise, it could fit on the contents page. The executive summary is a snapshot of the report, a report in miniature, intended for an executive, not the primary reader. It is roughly 1/10 the length of the report body, and it follows the structure, organization, and tone of the report body, such as no I or you. The back matter, or supplemental material, comes at the end of the report, after the recommendations. This would include a references page, for our purposes, in APA style, and any appendixes, just as your book has appendixes, Appendix A, Appendix B, and so on. These contain useful, important information, but they do not necessarily fit into the body of the report. The body of the report, or the report proper, contains the introduction, which can be made up of multiple sections. Look at section 10-6B in your book. The sections include some or all of the items listed, but certainly the background, the problem, significance, which can be part of the problem, scope, what is and is not covered in the report, and how the report is organized. If primary research is used, it will include a methodology section indicating how data were collected and analyzed. The discussion section includes the research, the analysis, the explanation, the data, the charts and graphs. This includes the secondary and primary research. The report ends with conclusions, what all the research means for the reader, followed by recommendations, what the reader should do based on the conclusions. One issue not discussed in the textbook, but is crucial to an effective formal report, is a concept called a structural coherence plan. Take a look. In this plan, each main section starts with a mini introduction. This explains what the section covers. Then it talks about the content. And then each section ends with a mini conclusion that summarizes the section and transitions to the next section. This helps the report flow and maintain coherence. Section 10.3 in your book covers doing primary and secondary research. Research includes finding library and web sources, including journal articles, relevant web pages. We'll do a short lesson on library research separately and review some of these things. The key with web research is that you must do more work to determine the credibility and validity of the sources you find. For your projects, your primary resource will be the library's research databases, but you will also need to conduct some research on the web. You will also need to conduct primary research. Specifically, you and your team will need to create a questionnaire by which you will survey an appropriate sample of your target population based on the case you and your team select or I assign for you. Chapter 10 has a good discussion on surveys and questionnaires and even talks about using SurveyMonkey. You can also go to Learning Module 4, Week 6, and the item labeled on creating questionnaires. Finally, visual aids and graphics. Because humans are visual, we see in our mind things represented by words. For example, if we read or hear the word R-E-D, each of us will see something: a red sunset, a stop sign, a heart, blood. Because this is our nature, visual aids such as charts and graphs help our audience to better grasp and remember the content of our message. These charts and graphs are visuals that you create from the data you gather in your primary research, from tabulating responses to your questionnaires. Your job is to make sure you select the appropriate visual aids to support your points and match your data. And that's what this section of Chapter 10 covers. When integrating visuals into your report body, remember this three-step approach. First, introduce your visual aid. It could be something like, see Figure 1, or as Figure 1 shows, and so on. Second, show the visual aid. The visual aid should not be larger than 1/3 the size of the page, certainly not the entire page. Add a figure label, such as Figure 1, and a caption, a title for the visual. Microsoft Word has a feature that helps you with this. Look in the MS Word Help section. Third, explain what the visual aid means for the reader. Do not jump into a new topic directly after the visual aid, or you will confuse your audience. Okay, that covers the basics of Chapter 10. Questions? Send me an email.